Everyone knows about the tragedy that was Sonic's 30th birthday. Rush job ports, misfire merch, a mobile game.
Watch out for Mephilus the Dark.
Yeah, Sonic had a rocky transition into the 2020s, but if he could come back from this, and this, and that, god damn it, he can do anything. So how can Sonic impress people again? I'm glad you asked. After Sonic Mania in the movies, I think the fans have a good idea of where Sonic is headed, for him to be his best self again. Yeah, sure, Sega is as clueless as ever, but we're not Sega. We're better. So let's go back. See what Sonic could do better, could have done better, and is going to do better in the future. What could Sonic have done to make the early 2020s more exciting? And where do I think he can go to make the 40th anniversary a proud one? Let's start all the way back in the heyday of 2021, back when Sonic Origins and Colors Ultimate were announced. As announcements themselves, these were pretty neat. I mean, Sonic 3 was supposedly getting ported, along with the long-renowned Taxman mobile ports, finally coming to consoles. And Colors was one of Sonic's highest-rated games in years. Surely these would be instant hits. The idea behind this stuff wasn't inherently wrong, but the rushed and unpolished nature of these, followed by being overpriced to hell, just makes you think of a better reality where they were worth it all. That's why for my first timeline revision, I'm turning Sonic Colors Ultimate into the Sonic 3D Collection, or Boost Collection. Unleashed has always deserved to be put on modern hardware. Generations is an all-time classic at this point, so why shouldn't they be put with Colors for a new generation to experience? You could even add more significant improvements, like making the Sun and Moon medals like they were in Unleashed, or making classic Sonic control like you did in Mania. My personal pipe dream would have Shadow unlockable in at least Generations after you finish all 3 games, but that's besides the point. Now in terms of graphical and technical fidelity, well, we just have to hope that in this reality, Nega was more responsible with their management. These games got the upgrades they deserve. Make them look like, you know, good PS4 games, not decent PS3 games. Price this at a good 40 to 50 and you're already back to beating Mario. But what about classic Sonic? Now this one's a reach, but what if Sega wasn't a bunch of brain-dead businessmen with the talent of the Mania team? We got a follow-up to one of the most beloved game collections in platformer history. That's right, Sonic Jam. Or Mega Collection, you get the idea. Technically, we already got this from Origins, with the devs from the Mania team helping out. But with their support supposedly being rushed, and Sonic 3 turning out less than ideal. Know what I would have preferred? Throw the Mario All-Stars out and remaster all the classics. Upgraded physics, sprites, maybe even level design to be more Mania-like. Or just plain more fun. Even without a Mania 2 on the horizon, this would be a pretty definitive way to play the games that made Sonic who he is today, and a good way to send off those classic ideas for the future. I'd have loved to see what the Mania team could do with the classic games, and I could only imagine what a T-Lopes remastered soundtrack would sound like. So we have September and June out of the way. 2 pretty cool collections, if you ask me. Frontiers and the second Sonic movie will fill out the rest of 2022 enough. They're a bit flawed, but you can tell Sonic Team and Paramount put a lot into making them satisfying for fans. This rounds out the 30th anniversary, and we move on to the future. 2023 is looking to be a supplementary year, but a good one nonetheless. I mean, you have the Knuckles TV show confirmed to be in production somewhere. Frontiers is getting DLC. First time for a 3D Sonic since... wow. For the Knuckles show, I'm hoping they bring the Chaotix back, including Metal Sonic as a bad guy. Frontiers has already surpassed my expectations by having DLC, looking like a new age of Sonic is upon us. But let's not stop there. We had a Boost collection, a Classic collection. Now where the hell are the GBA games? That's right, as a part of the Sonic Advanced Defense Department. I think it's about time the trilogy got a widescreen makeover. Even if they're not as intricate as the other games, they're still iconic and deserve to be remembered. And with that, we have 2023. Pretty decent year for most sides of the fandom. Around this point, the decade of Sonic was either at the peak of his career or the fucking trenches. But this is the decade of Sonic. We could aim higher than ever. So what better time for Sonic to peak again than Mania 2 and Sonic 3? That's right. While they remastered the Genesis games, we could assume that the past 4 to 5 years were a massive build-up for the Mania team to make the greatest 2D platformer of our time. As for the game's content, aside from fully original levels, time for an art style change. We've had enough classic shit for a decade, so mix the early 3D art with the more charming classic art, and well, I don't know, just leave the rest to Tyson. This will indicate that Sonic is finally growing up. Bridge the gap between 3 and Adventure, 2 Battle, and Knuckles. Sonic 3 is already confirmed. After the first 2 successes, we can be sure that Sonic won't be the only hedgehog to return to form. With all this momentum, you'd think Sonic Team finally learned to program again. But alas, they're still too busy figuring out how to animate cutscenes to remake Sonic Adventure. That is, unless they outsource to a more capable team in Sane style. Then, at the tail end of Mania 2 and Sonic 3's success, a new generation of adventure games could finally be announced. Who knows, maybe this could be the fabled Fans 3D team we've been waiting for. Either way, an adventure remake could reinvent Sonic's 3D legacy back to standard, along with adding some upgrades like better story structure and dignity. Good old Sonic team's not gone though, with their new Frontiers-like game finally out of the oven. Anything expanding upon the original's gameplay could be great, but as for the story, well, after the last entries you could imagine who would be the star of this one. Explore Sonic and Shadow's relationship, or even Team Dark's, because Lord knows we haven't seen any of that since Heroes 06. While we're on the Dark Age train, after a Knuckles series, how about a Shadow series? Assuming Sonic 3 doesn't kill the guy, from his popularity, he'd be the perfect character to make a TV show about right after Knuckles. This is starting to look like the year of Shadow. Out of the next Smash Bros. But being Mr. Popular doesn't mean he has to be in everything. I don't think he'd fit in Mania 2. And for DLC, I'd rather have an extra Metal Sonic story. Oh yeah, Mania 2 should have DLC. Let's continue that tradition and add even more than Mania Plus did, like new metal stages or characters that didn't make it in. Overall, the mid-2020s should be a reinvigorating era for Sonic. Reinventing the classic and adventure eras for old and new fans alike, with definitive versions of every character and gameplay style established for the future. Going forward, there can be DLC for Frontiers 2, maybe another TV show. Hey, I'd really like Sonic to be 2D animated again, especially with adaptations like Arcane and Cyberpunk. After Sonic Prime and the movie TV shows, it'd be really refreshing for Sonic to go back to his edgy anime roots. So yeah, throw that in there. Awesome. After all that, the only thing left to do is take everything that worked, mix it together, and make the best Sonic game ever made. Make Sonic Adventure 3 already. Look, it's been half a decade since Iizuka said he wanted to remake Sonic Adventure 1. Even longer for the rumored canned remakes from 2015. With that responsibility on a fresher team, the only natural step is to go on to Iizuka's other pipe dream. Sonic Team doesn't even need to take a back seat. This should be a culmination of all their trials and experiences up to this point. A joint effort from all 3D Sonic devs to make the best 3D Sonic game they can. The game can primarily follow a trio of Sonic, Shadow, and Blaze, with gameplay styles accommodating for each era of the series, besides Classic, which already had its conclusion. Sonic could have a more adventure Frontiers style, with a focus on high-speed exploration and platforming. It would be nice if Sonic could have a more fun, fluid moveset again without losing his signature speed. Shadow could have an Adventure 2 style, along with the better level design of 06 and maybe even Frontiers. It would be cool if he had a more strict ranking system, and a combo gameplay style that gives the feeling of barreling through enemies to gain speed, but probably more advanced. Ideally more advanced than just pressing a single button. Let's hope we get there by Frontiers 2. And for Blaze, they could go all out with fun boost gameplay, where she comes from after all. Maybe every style could have some form of a boost, but activated in a different way. This would be a good way to encapsulate everything Sonic Team and their associates have learned. Hopefully by this point, they have a lot of associates. With the decade coming to its conclusion, one more fun movie to end them all could be what Sonic needs to close things out. Have it star Silver and Blaze, with a plot that takes from the strengths of the later 2000s plot. By this point, Sonic should have a good grip on the kind of great stories it could tell without restriction, so these should go all out with the proper teams of polish they need to become iconic. And so, Sonic ends the decade, proving why he'll always be a pop culture juggernaut for years to come. All-star collections for every side of the fandom, definitive games of every style, and better character writing than the series has experienced in, well, hopefully ever. The Sonic fanbase could look back in the next decade, and either wish he could be as good again, cry that he stopped producing content, or hope for the best as he continues to give it his all. Either way, they can be happy with the memories made of the decade Sonic found his flame again. This was a very dreamy, dumbass wish list for what Sonic's gotta do to make my sad, deprived still happy again. But do I really care if he can't live up to it? A little bit, yeah. But you can be sure that through it all, I'll still be a fan. I could even get one or two of the really cool shit I thought up here. I'd be like, hell yeah, dude. Especially Mania 2, please. And Shadow and Smash. All in all, this isn't to say I could do better, or that I trust Sega to do better, or that I am Sonic. Just see a future for the little guy. And I think this is the best time for the powers that be to capitalize on it. Or, you know, we could get Sonic Dinosaur.